This is Felix Mendelssohn Concerto in E minor. Oh yeah? Uh-huh. It was by Felix Mendelssohn. By Felix Mendelssohn. The date was 1844 because it was Opus 64. E minor. Oh! Hello, this is the Mendelssohn residence. How may I help you? Hi! You are wondering about the Violin Concerto in E minor, Opus 64? Yes, I can totally help you. It is a tricky thing to remember. Let me pull up my papers here. Alright, so the date is 1844. The way you can remember that is because the opus number is 64 and the date has two fours in it. So it's 1844 from the opus 64. So there's those fours. That's one way to remember the date. Now, the genre was a concerto for solo violin. Now, it is in 3 movements. The way you can remember that is because also in the whole bunch of information about the violin concerto, there are a lot of 3, like the division of 3, because in the opus number, it is opus 64. And opus 64, the 6 is a division of 3. And so the genre is a concerto for solo violin with 3 movements. And you can remember the 3 movements because of the opus number 64. Now, the key is E minor. The way to remember that is because E minor, E at a capital E, it looks like a backwards 3. And remember, we're subdividing things by 3. And so the key is E minor. Now, the time signature is 2-2. The way to remember that, because 2 plus 2 equals 4. And again, we also are having a lot of subdivisions by 4 because the date is 1844 and the opus number is 64. Now, the tempo is allegro molto appassionato. Those are 3 words there. Allegro molto appassionato. And those are 3 words. You can remember that because, again, there's the subdivision of 3 with the 3 movements, the 64 opus number, as well as the key in E minor. Now, the form, however, is, oh, I'm sorry, I will soon have to go. I'll just give you 1 more minute. So the form quickly is the concert-style sonata allegro. Concert-style sonata allegro. Now that is, there are 4 different words there. Concert-style sonata allegro. And again, there is the 4. And the reason it is considered a sonata allegro is because of the cadenza. How's that? Oh, yes. Well, the reason you can remember that all of these mathematical things are for this piece specifically and for Mendelssohn is, if you remember correctly, Mendelssohn came from a very well-to-do family and he was brought up in a well-to-do home, and so he knew his math very well. And so, yeah, that's what you can remember. Anyways, I have to go on to my next call, but thank you so much for calling the Mendelssohn Residence. Talk to you later. Bye. Now, this work was dedicated to... Oh, I can't remember.
Me, you idiot! My name is Fernando David. He dedicated it to me. No one else but me, Fernando David. Don't you forget it.
So, the date was 1844. The opus number was 64. The time signature was 2-2 or cut time. The form was a concert-style sonata allegro. The genre was a concerto for solo violin in 3 movements. The key, E minor, and the tempo was allegro molto appassionato. Mendelssohn changed the formal structure of the concerto, eliminating the orchestral opening, which allowed the soloist to appear almost immediately. Now, the reason you could remember this is maybe because Mendelssohn was a little bit of a star, and so he wanted to appear right away. Now, Beethoven also did that in his Concerto Number 5. The double exposition, however, was cancelled. So, the formal structure was changed just like Beethoven's number 5 piano concerto was. And the reason it was changed like that, it really got rid of the double exposition that was common in the classical era. So that canceled it. Now the accompaniment here is a pulsing drum and low bass strings. You can pretend that the pulsing drum, bump bump, bump bump, bump bump, bump bump, bump, is like the pulsing heart of someone in love. And so that's the accompaniment, pulsing drum and low bass strings. Hello, Mendelssohn residents. Oh, hi. Yes. Oh, you're wondering about the instrumentation? All right, the instrumentation for the Violin Concerto. Well, in the second theme, Mendelssohn reduces the instrumentation, and he also puts it in the relative major. You can think of it maybe for the first theme, it's in E minor, but now it's the relative major, and so that would be G major. Because for the second theme, you want to change it up, right? Well, the relative major would be G major. Now, also here, the clarinets appear above the flutes. So here the clarinets are above the flutes. Now, the soloist sustains the G string. So that again, we have the G. There's a lot of G's in this section. The soloist sustains the G string because now we're in G major. And it creates a pedal point. Now, he creates a pedal point. Now, then later on, he takes over the subject and the second clarinet sustain the G string. So what we really have is Mendelssohn reduces the instrumentation for the second theme, which is then in G major. And here the clarinets appear above the flutes, and they appear above the flutes. And so the flutes have then well, I guess the melody, well, the solo sustains G strings, creating a pedal point, and then the soloist then takes over the subject, and the second clarinets sustain the G. So we have the second theme, reduced instrumentation, in the relative major, right, which is G major, that is correct. And then the clarinets appear above the flutes, and the soloist, which is the violin, has the G string. And that creates a pedal point. It's very important to remember that pedal point. And then the violinist will take over the subject again. And when he takes over the subject, then the clarinets sustain the G pedal point. And so, does that help? Wonderful. Thank you. Have a good day. Okay, bye-bye. The development section is heralded by orchestral trills. The development section is heralded by orchestral trills. The cadenza is the climax or the peak of this work. The cadenza is the peak of this work. The soloist employs double stopping technique. The double stopping technique is when they play two strings simultaneously. That's double stopping. And I want to thank you for listening because this movement ends in E major, and now it's time for a review. What was the opus number? Come on and think. What was that opus number? It was 64. What was the date? What was the date? It was 1844. It was 1844. How many movements were there? How many movements were there? 3. 3. What was the time signature in this work? 2. 2. And now what was the key? The key? E minor, E minor. Now what was the form? The form. Remember those four. I'm wondering if there were four words. Concert style sonata allegro. Booyah! The tempo, the tempo. Remember the three division. Tempo, allegro, molto, appassionato. And how did he change the structure? By eliminating the orchestral opening. And what was the accompaniment? Pulsing drums and low bass strings. The second theme was... There were a lot of things there. What did the second theme have? There was the reduced instrumentation, the relative major key, the clarinets were above the flutes, the soloist pedal point on G, the soloist then takes over the subject, and the second clarinet sustained G. Then, what was the development heralded by? Orchestral trills. What is the climax? What is the climax? The cadenza. It is in the first movement instead of being in the usual last. So what is a cadenza? It is a decorative virtuoso passage. Now the soloist also employs what feature? Double stopping, double stopping. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the piece, the Violin Concerto in E minor, opus 64, the date of which is 1844, 1844, and the composer was Felix Mendelssohn. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Go girl, go. Go girl, go. You can do it.